Hello and welcome to the Legends interview series. I'm Sarah Furuya from Sarah Furuya Coaching, and I believe there are many ways to lead a life, and this is one of them. Today, I welcome Tia Haygood from TopTia Photography. Tia is a bilingual photographer living in Tokyo, and she enjoys photographing the urban characteristics of Tokyo and travels all around Japan. She received her first camera at age 13 and also attended classes at the New York Institute of Photography. She's an active international community member and is currently a member of FEW for Empowering Women in Japan, the Australian and New Zealand Chamber of Commerce, and German International KK. Hi Tia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing good, yes. Well, I guess I'll start about my origins. I'm from North Carolina, Charlotte. It's a home city. And I have a younger sister, and my parents, who are the most amazing inspirations to me. They inspire my work ethic. They also inspire my tenacity. And I wouldn't be where I am right now without them. My mom was always of the mind of me being, or my sister and I being, a part of a really, really great school. The only problem was we couldn't really afford to go to a private school.
Yeah.
So the next best thing, because she was a teacher in the school system anyway, she kind of knew which schools were the best schools based on their school culture and their test scores. We would literally every day wake up at 4 in the morning, get dressed, drive to the bus stop, and then ride the bus another hour to school. And we did that for a time, but as we kind of got older, my sister and I went to separate high schools, and she focused more on the arts and I focused more on the IB program.
IB?
IB, the International Baccalaureate program. Kind of like a world curriculum. It's not really based on a school, state curriculum or city's curriculum. I didn't really have a lot of artistic studies growing up, shockingly. My sister and I kind of switched.
Yeah.
So she went to the artsy school, but she's now doing a PhD program in American history.
Oh, wow.
And I went to the logistics school, or in the logical thinking, critical thinking school, and now I'm doing photography.
So your mom was a teacher?
So my mom is a teacher.
What did she teach?
She taught and still teaches dance.
Dance?
She teaches dance. And much to her disappointment, I can't dance. She tried really hard.
What kind of dance?
So she does a variety of dance. She does hip hop, African jazz. Those are her top ones, but she does a little bit of ballet. She also does kind of different retreats for kind of mother-daughter workshops in South Carolina as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's rad.
So my mom does a lot. She's a military veteran. And she kind of has this kind of connection between veterans who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, people who are looking for just some kind of aid. And she kind of looks at it through a communal lens. She has an organization called My Sister's House, where she really tries to help people struggling post-war with trying to find community, trying to find purpose, and just trying to make connections. So that is my mom.
Oh wow!
She does a million things that are just amazing, and she's only okay. Let me get this right. She's only 54.
Just wonder, like, how would you honor her influence on you?
Like she is a hustler.
Yeah.
But I remember just being a kid watching her jump hoops for this opportunity and that opportunity, the opportunity for us to stay in school. She actually had to take out a loan to put up a down payment on a house in our school district so that we could continue to go to the school that we were attending at the time, because of laws that were unfair to certain folks or people.
Yeah.
So she really has a strong sense of dedication that I hope I mimicked enough for my own business. She saw that future for us.
Yeah.
And she really, really worked hard to make sure that we saw it through and that we could, live successful lives. And I hope that I kind of regurgitate or even copy some of that in my own work.
How about your dad? Your dad's quite a character as well.
My dad is a hilarious character, and to this day I'm still trying to figure out how my funny father and my like boots in the ground mom got together and fell in love and had me.
Like, how would you describe yourself?
Like, I mean, I think I'm kind of a mix of both of them. Like,
Yeah.
I love to be goofy and funny,
Yeah.
like my father, but at the same time, when it's time to work, it's time to work. And that's not to say that my father doesn't have great work ethics.
Yeah.
So he's a radio announcer and
Okay.
DJ on at a local radio station. That's been his career for over 30 years now. And he's just carried that career on up until today. Like, my mom was kind of the long-term goal kind of person. She was the one that said, okay, your mindset needs to be this. And my father was kind of the practical one, like, okay, if you're going to be on this path, do this thing this way, do this thing that way. He also had the, play as play and work as work kind of mindset, but I think his play was a little bit bigger than my mom's. The thing with, because you talk about who do you want to please, you actually did that, growing up. We called it code switching.
Oh, well, okay.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, no. I'm really interested in this, actually, because I didn't know what this was. I had it in the back of my mind, and then I researched it. So let's go there. Tell me about code switching.
Okay, so code switching. So what I told you earlier that my mom wanted me to go to a private school, but we couldn't really get to that point. So the next best thing were pretty much predominantly white schools.
Right.
And so when you go to a predominantly white school, you don't really hear what you often hear in the neighborhood. Our mostly black neighborhood, we're speaking pretty casual and, in our own kind of accent, if you will. But when you go to predominantly white school with that sort of speak, you get corrected or you get kind of made fun of. I remember some occasions where it slipped out, a bit, and people would, say like, it's this, or like, be mean about it. You kind of had to learn how to speak like a white person. But when you came, in the presence of other black people and speak like a white person, they would say, well, why are you speaking white? Then that was kind of the thing where it's like, okay, white over here, black over here.
So you got really good at kind of, it's called code switching.
Code switching, yeah.
Code switching.
I remember a friend of mine, we were trying to get her away from a domestic situation, a domestically violent situation. We got her away, but then the guy came to my house and I had to call the cops. So I put my most Becky voice on at that point.
I know what Becky means.
To be fair, that term Becky didn't come up until like years after that situation.
Yeah,
happened.
sure.
But no, I was just like, excuse me, yes, there is a man outside of my door and I need some assistance, please. So
and they were there like that.
And they were there in 10 minutes.
Yeah. How did you come to Japan?
Basically, my intention was to go to a really good school that led into a law school or a legal career. I went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. They have a really good law program. And they don't have a pre-law program, which was fine. I just took like political science. But I also double majored because in high school, I studied abroad in Japan at 17.
Wait, you came to Japan first when you were 17?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, when did you stay here?
I came to Tokyo 2005? Yeah, 2005.
2005. Okay, so we may have walked past each other. And did you do a homestay?
I did do a homestay.
And did you go to a school?
I did go to school. I went to Aoyama Gakuin High School.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah?
Well, because it's a Christian school. And I grew up in AME Zion, African Methodist Episcopal Zions. It's basically a black church.
Okay.
It's a black Methodist church.
Okay.
And when I went to Aoyama Gakuin High School, they had service. And it was so funny because they had the same songs that we sing in church, in black church, in Japanese. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I remember coming home with the paper and I was like, look, Grandma, look, I'm going to sing this song. Guess the song. And I'd sing it in Japanese and she'd be like, wait a minute, is that such and such? And I'd be like, yeah, they do it in Japan. I really am grateful that I grew up Amazon because the way that it works is you have your pastor or you have the reverend and he basically has a theme for the week. And so what he does is he takes a kind of point that or a situation that you might encounter in life and he selects a passage in the Bible. But what he does is he interprets that passage in a way that's modern, in a way that's practical, so that you can use that, remember that for the week and live your life in a better way. And Black Church is really special because it's a community kind of feeling to it. You know, you come for help, you come for not only worship, but you come to see how people are doing, catch up with people. My grandmother used the kitchen as a soup kitchen to feed the homeless. So, I mean, it was religion was there, but community was also there, and community was very, very strong. in the church.
Love this, because like what I'm trying to do is just weave the tapestry together of Tia, and it's starting to come together for me. I'm starting to really understand it.
I'm a very communal person.
Yeah, and I mean a good church, a good, loving, supportive, communal church that interprets the words of the Bible can really create something beautiful for people, I believe.
But I think so we were stopping off at Aoyama.
Yes.
And then I studied abroad again in college.
Yeah.
So me living in Japan or having a relationship with Japan had kind of made its presence when I was 17. I came to Tokyo, and I just explored Tokyo. So I said, okay, I've got to come back. This is going to be my home. I don't know how or when, but it's going to be my home. And so I studied abroad again in college. I studied at Kanda University in Makuhari, Chiba. And that was really, really tough because it was a kanji boot camp. Ooh, 80 kanji a day.
Kanji is Chinese characters.
Yes, the Chinese characters that Japan also uses. That boot camp was crazy, but I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I love kanji. I like reading. That's the point. And so for me to be able to read Japanese pop culture or just a nice little simple book, it's kind of my motivation.
So you are fully bilingual basically then?
I'd say I'm between N3 and N2.
1 being academic, I suppose, and then 3 and 2, it's kind of
conversational and close to business.
What sparked your interest in Japan?
So I was reading a couple of books. One was a book and one was a manga. Rurouni Kenshin was the manga, and the book was Memoirs of a Geisha. And it just kind of painted Japan in this kind of this historical, beautiful place with rich culture and ceremonies and things that you had to do that had certain steps. And, okay, you're this age, so now you have to do this. Okay, you've done that and you're this age, so now you have to do this. And this organization of culture, which is very different from African-American culture and American culture, because we're just kind of like bara, we're all over the place with our culture. But in between those milestones are specific things that Japanese people do.
Yep.
And that fascinated me. So I came to Japan just based on those 2 books.
Well, everybody gets their spark from somewhere. So let's move on. So you moved to Japan in when?
I moved in, I think it's September 21st, 2011. And the only reason why I know that date is for 2 things. Tom Cruise came the same day I did, because everybody made a fuss at the airport about it. And a typhoon also came that same day. So,
okay. Baptism of fire.
So it was a monumental day.
So you arrived with Tom Cruise.
Yes.
And so tell me what happens next.
So I wanted to kind of take a gap year. So I was still thinking about joining or going to law school. And so I said, okay, I don't want to go to law school yet. I want to have a gap year, just kind of hang out and, use my Japanese skills a bit. I purposefully decided not to come to Tokyo. I did not want to come to Tokyo because I knew I would speak English in Tokyo. So I went to a place in Tochigi called Oyama. I taught at an eikaiwa there for a while, and I enjoyed it. It was really nice. It was a kind of good way to just kind of get my feet wet in Japanese life. Not so much Japanese culture, because in eikaiwas you're really locked in that world.
Yes.
And
eikaiwa meaning?
Eikaiwa is English conversation school.
An English conversation school, okay.
And that's basically what you do. You have an English conversation with your students, young and old. It wasn't what my goal was.
Yeah.
So I only stayed there for about a year and a couple months. And I decided to go to a Japanese private school. So I taught at Kamakura Joshi Daigaku, and I loved it. It was a really, really fantastic experience. I was the only foreigner there, so my motivation to use my Japanese and hone my Japanese skills was very present, and that really allowed me to grow linguistically during those 3 years. One of the things you have to do is learn the language and learn the customs and learn the, I don't say rules, but the norms.
Rules.
And some rules. It's some rules. And be a part of the community. I'm not trying to say that I was, that I was this Japanophile and I wanted to be Japanese, but like I said, the communal the community in me really wanted to, you know, contribute and be a part of something very beautiful.
When did you start to transition into starting your photography business then?
Ooh, now that came out of left field. One of the downfalls about being an English teacher is that it's not a very linear career.
No.
It doesn't go up, it doesn't go left, it doesn't go right, it's just there.
Yeah.
And I was starting to kind of feel the kind of strain of being so limited in one position.
Yeah.
And I was starting to kind of plan my exit out of Japan.
Okay.
In terms of exiting Japan to go to law school or exiting Japan to go to photography school. At the time, I was still I was taking photos as a hobby. So I was traveling.
So you had a proper camera.
I had a proper camera. I bought myself a DSLR. And around that time, I was meeting people to see, you know, well, let's get used to this idea of me being a photographer. And I would go and I would meet people, meet other artists and see what they were doing and kind of trade ideas or bounce ideas off of them. I met this one guy. He was a really interesting guy. So he's a videographer and producer. He's in Thailand right now.
Okay.
But he said, yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy that might need some photo work. And I had told him that I had shot food. Because at the time, that's what I was shooting. It was going places and shooting like meibutsu, or the local food of the place I was at.
Okay.
And I showed him some photos of, you know, me going to this place and me going to that place. And so it's like, yeah, I got a few people. And the other guy was John from What the Dickens.
John Coyle?
Yeah. So
Salute.
So I go there and I'm photographing their famous fish and chips and their meat pies. And this guy shows up. And he's like, wow, this is really neat. This is really cool. How about photographing my 50th birthday party? And I was just like, oh, snap, we're getting gigs now.
Oh, I appear to be a photographer.
I appear to be a photographer.
But you said yes, right?
Yeah, I did say yes.
Yeah, okay, so here's the point, right? So I've just made a note, like connections, like these connections can show up.
Yeah.
And this is like across the board, like, and especially, you know, in my coaching business, always trying to help people identify when that kind of thing is happening.
Yeah.
And then you have to say yes.
You have to say yes.
So
Don't
otherwise,
say no.
and be all modest about it, or I'm not ready, and
Yeah,
it's
don't
about
do
doing
that.
things. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
I love it. Don't do that. So you said, yes, I
said
will
yes
photograph your 50th
immediately.
birthday. Great.
Yes. So I had a month of time between then. So of course, you know, you practice.
How did you practice?
At the time, I was doing a mentorship program.
Uh-huh.
So there was a guy, he was, Mateo, he was so fantastic. So he was a war veteran / photojournalist, and he would come in and out of Kamakura ever so often, and he was strict. He was really, really strict, and a military guy. And so I was learning from him, and then just going out to do concert photography. If somebody was playing, I would go and photograph them and kind of like learn like how to shoot in low lighting or how to shoot in tight spaces.
I'm seeing this picture of a really kind of diligent person come together here, and I almost want to say, even though I know that you love to be goofy, that quite serious as well.
I mean, it's one of those things where we grew up pretty modest, you know, and so there was nothing really handed to me. There was nothing really where, you know, it's like, it's okay. It was really like, okay, if you want this, if you want to eat, you need to do this. Nobody's going to hold your hand. Nobody's going to say, like, this customer has an expectation. And you have to meet that customer's
Yeah, you can't go to
expectation.
somebody's 50th birthday party and be like, sorry, I forgot my SD card.
And then that's the beginning and end of your career. You know, they say if you mess up, that's it, you're done. Nobody will hire you. And then that might not be true. But Mateo put the fear of God in me.
Like a real work ethic.
Like a real work ethic in terms of make sure your gear is packed, make sure you've checked your batteries, make sure you've checked, you know, that you have a plan. And so that, you know, really, really helped me kind of say, all right, look, I think I've got my tools for now. I'm going to go and do the shoot. And I do my establishing shots, I do my detail shots, you know, and I come in, and halfway through this, the guy who hires me brings in this other guy, and he has a camera, and he has a cool camera, cooler than mine, with lots of gear and stuff that I definitely don't have. And he says, oh yeah, hey Tia, you know, doing a great job. I've got this other photographer as well, and he's going to shoot too. And I was just like, mother.
But you carried on anyway.
I
How
mean,
did you get through that little wall at that moment?
Do the best that you can.
You have to just humble yourself,
you
don't
have to
you?
humble yourself
Yeah.
and just say, look, you know what, I'm going to do good work. I'm going to do a good job and
Yeah.
do good work. And at the time I had my my old 7D Canon, which is not good for low lighting situations. I had rented a couple of lenses that were not the most expensive lenses, but definitely in my budget because it was my first official gig. And so I wanted to put my best foot forward within budget. So I just said, look, it's okay. You know, just center yourself, just capture the moments, just capture the smiles, look for fun, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. And what was the result of that?
The guy comes back at me and he says, oh my God, Tia, your photos are so fantastic. They're amazing. Everyone's laughing and having fun. And I was just like, oh, thank God.
So you were finding out who you were as a practitioner there, as a creative, as an artist.
As a photographer, you know, who's photographing people are going to remember what they look like. And they're going to take away the feeling of how they see themselves in your photo. So basically, the guy was so impressed with how my photos looked. He said, you know, you should do this as a business. And I was just like, that's funny, hoo hoo. And the guy said, well, no, I'll help you. And this guy was a 5-time entrepreneur. He had 5 startups. And he was in the middle of his 5th one. Mm-hmm. He said, well, I understand Japanese business. I understand how to register a business and what to do and the ethics, the etiquette and ethics. I'll help you. And I said, wow, okay, sure.
What a total score.
Yeah.
This is all these connections and like really leaning into them.
Connections really, really help.
And then that's when I think that's probably about the time when you started to come onto my radar 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes.
Because you were photographing one of my friends, Helen.
I love Helen. Helen Iwata, she's so fantastic.
Yeah.
She was the one who actually came up with the name of the business. The thing that all photographers do is your first and your last name plus photography.
Yeah.
And I was kind of just like, well, you know, okay, maybe I'll jazz it up. I'll call it TK Photography. You know, it's the initial of my first name and the initial of my middle name.
Yeah.
And it still just wasn't really working. And when she told me about TopTia, she was actually talking about a little bit of a wordplay between Japanese and English. Oh. So TopTia, you know, people think of like, you know, like top and then like my name Tia, but in Japanese, Tia is kind of used for the word tier. So you can't say ER. So it's top tier. Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's a really fun wordplay.
Oh, because it's like the highest
level of quality. Yeah. And I was sold. I was like, yes, let's do it. And that's what I registered the business on.
You were attracting all these people, magnetizing all these people, and then just saying yes.
I mean, I didn't say yes to everything.
No, of course
There were some things I said no to.
Yeah.
Like working for free for exposure.
Then you got hired by a larger company as their kind of freelance contributor. Mm-hmm. And then recently, you decided to go all in just on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Detach yourself from the large place. Mm-hmm. And what prompted that?
So I was a staff photographer and I was doing my business at the same time.
Yeah.
And so one of the amazing reasons why I joined this company is that I wanted to kind of understand the Japanese lay of the land. And I learned so much, and the people were really, really fantastic in terms of teaching, in terms of Japanese ethics, etiquette, because when you're a Japanese business, you're all about omotenashi.
Yes.
And omotenashi, you know, customer is not the king, customer is God.
Yeah.
And so you have to learn and develop a mindset of really putting customer care, you know, first. So that really, really was kind of like a boot camp for me. But also learning what is a photographer's standard workflow.
So you really learned the business of photography with them.
I gotten some really cool projects on my side, on TopTia's side of you know, photography, and I constantly found myself juggling between saying yes or saying no, or you know, saying yes to them and no to them, or saying yes to them and no to them. It started kind of clashing. My schedule was kind of clashing, and you know, my mind was kind of clashing. Who do I please? Do I please myself and my client, or do I please my team and their clients? And oftentimes myself and my client lost. Yeah. And we parted on really good terms. I still work with them from time to time.
But that was quite stressful.
It was
for you, wasn't it?
Oh my God, it was stressful because there was a point where I said, let me just make it work. I'll stay up longer. The coaches that they say, look, you need to hustle and you need to, you know, live, poop, and eat and drink and die by your craft. And it really wasn't conducive to my, you know,
mental
my health, my mental health, physical health, my relationships.
Yeah.
And I was really, really starting to suffer. One of the things that a friend of mine, the days before I started TopTia and started my career in photography, a really good friend said to me, have fun with it. And if you're not having fun, reassess.
Yeah, it started to be not fun.
It started to be
that
not
kind
fun.
of niggling feeling where you're like, where's the apex of like work and fun?
And so I needed to really make a decision, a scary decision of, do I want to go and do my own thing, or do I want to stay and forego my own thing? And foregoing my own thing was not an option. It's kind of like my baby. It's this thing that, you know, that is slowly grown into something wonderful and useful and fantastic. I mean, I've met so many fun and amazing people in this job in photography, and I've documented, you know, precious moments, amazing moments that I don't want to stop that, you know.
And that brings us to now, actually, because when you wrote kind of like an essay, a short letter online, right, about this.
Yeah.
And that's what I read, and that's what prompted me to be really curious about more about you, because of course you photographed me.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know what I'm like, I like to kind of get talking to people and get right in there, but I really enjoyed that you just kept this really professional kind of veil between us, and I was like, oh, I like this. I like there's a really good boundary here, and I like that, because otherwise I want your whole backstory, which is basically what we're doing today instead. So that kind of brings me to start to close this out now, and I just want to know, what is the future?
Wow. Well, for me, it's just getting over the Olympics hump.
So you're obviously going to be engaged a lot in the Olympics.
I think so. It's one of the things where there are a lot of people who are very invested commercially in the Olympics. They want to kind of make their presence into Japan. They want to enter Japan, whether it be through their product or through their services. So I think that doing more personal branding kind of work, doing more work where I'm helping people commercially, whether that be showcasing their product, showcasing them in action. I definitely want to do more of those.
And do you see yourself in Japan for the foreseeable future?
I see myself in Japan for a very, very long time.
Me too, girl. We're family now.
Oh, yes. Here to stay. We're here to stay.
Yeah. Is that the we're here to stay dance?
That's the we're here to stay. We're just kind of dancing on the Yamanote line.
Yeah. Well, how would you say then, listening to yourself talking now, what do you think is your kind of philosophy on life, or the special top tier secret sauce that makes you who you are?
Growing up, I always wanted to know what I had to offer. And I always felt like I didn't have anything useful to offer. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer when I was 14. And I said, okay, this is the thing I have to offer. This is the thing that I'm going to work towards to be able to give to society and offer to society. I would always fantasize, after I retire from being an attorney, I'll be a photographer. I'll be a food photographer.
Okay.
That was this kind of fantasy, like, okay, after that career, when Robert Miller came around and said, no, I have a business. And it was just like, oh, why not do it right now?
Yeah, and as a coach, those kind of things where people are like, after I've done this, I'm going to do this. I'm like, oh, really? Let's go there. Let's
do it
visit
now.
over the edge. Yeah.
The more the people encouraged me and the more I started kind of seeing how people valued what I had to offer, it was just like, no, I have something I can offer. Something from me given to someone else, and they cherish and value it. That means a lot to me.
Yeah.
That means so much to me. I really like being a part of a community.
Yeah.
I really like being not just a part of the group, but giving to the group. My mom and my dad always said, you know, leave the world better than you found it. You know, I'm probably not going to be somebody on an Oprah level scale or a Martin Luther King level scale where they have left the world a lot better. Well, Oprah's not gone yet, but who, you know, they've invested and given to the world, and it's so much better because they've been through it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not going to probably be on that level, but at least in my community and in my network, I wanted to leave my community and leave my network better than how I found it. Or at least looking better.
Well, I'll definitely have better profile photos, that's for sure. Yes. So there we heard from Tia about the importance of family, about the influence of parents, and how her parents, her mother, who has set up all these charities and places to help veterans and mothers and daughters to come together, as well as sharing the joy of dance, and her father, the DJ, who gave her this like mindset and the practicalities together, and also invited her to think about leaving the world a better place than you came into it. What a fabulous start in life. and then just following these interests that you have. So her interest in Japan sparked just by two things: some manga, some cartoons, and the memoirs of a geisha, that then prompted her, age 17, to come here. What an incredibly brave and, you know, just inspired and intuitive thing to do. And now that she's here, those connections, saying yes to opportunities as they arise, growing your network, but not only growing your network, being part of a community, and then ensuring that you have something to offer them and offering it. I'm Sarah Furuya from Sarah Furuya Coaching, and I believe there are many, many ways to lead a life. I believe everybody has stories, and I want to hear yours and tell theirs, and create a work style and a lifestyle that you can be proud of. Thank you, and see you next time.